Let's now take a small break from building our API and let's create a simple script which will import the movies data from a JSON file into the MongoDB database. Now, this script which we are going to create in this lecture does not have to do anything with the Express app which we are creating, but it is going to be a nice little exercise, and so I thought of creating this lecture. So we are simply going to create a script that will load the data from a JSON file into the database. Let's go to VS Code, and here in the data folder, we have this movies.json file. So if I go to this movies.json file, currently in this movies.json file, we have movies objects with only 4 fields: ID, name, release year, and duration. But if I go to the movie model, where we are specifying a schema for the movie object, there we want to have name, description, duration, ratings, total rating, and other fields. And some of these fields are also required fields. So we cannot use this movie data to import to MongoDB database because it will simply fail the schema validation. So to solve this problem, what I have done is, here I have created some movie objects based on the movie schema which we have defined in our Express app. So I will copy this data and let's go to VS Code again. And there, let's replace the content of this movies.json file with the content which we have just copied. And here, let's also include a comma, which was missing. And now we should not have any error here in this JSON file. All right, so now we have a JSON file with some movies data, and the movie objects which we have in this JSON file that satisfies the schema which we have defined for the movie model. So what we want is, we want to import this movie data from this JSON file into the MongoDB collection. In the MongoDB database, we have a movies collection. In that movies collection, we want to import all these movies objects as a document. And for that, we are going to create a script. So inside this data folder, I'm going to create a new file. Let's simply call it import dev data. And this is going to be a JavaScript file. Now, as I have mentioned earlier, this script which we are going to create here, it is completely independent of the rest of our Express app, and we are going to run this script independently. And we are also going to run it from the command line. Okay, so here, the first thing which we are going to do is, we are going to import some packages. So the first package which we need is the mongoose package. The second package which we need is the .in package. Now, why do we need .in package? Because here in this file, we also want to use some environment variables. And for that, we need this .in package. And finally, we also need fs module because we want to read the movies.json file. So let's go ahead and let's also import the fs module. All right, now we want to connect to the MongoDB database. For that, what I'm going to do is, inside this server.js file, we are already writing a logic to connect to the database. I will copy that logic from here. Let's go back to import devdata.js. Here, let's give a comment and let's go ahead and let's paste this code here. Okay, let's remove this console.log statement from here. Now, in order to use this connection string from the environment variable, what we also need to do is, we need to use this line of code. So let's copy it. Let's go back to import devdata.js and let's use it before we try to connect to MongoDB database. Okay, so here we are basically trying to access this config.in file, and inside this config.in file, we are defining all our environment variables. And one of the environment variables is this connection string. Now here, we also need to import the movie model because it is that movie model where we want to create our movies document. So here, we are also going to import the movie model. Let's simply call it movie. Let's use this require function. And to this require function, we need to specify the path of the movie model. So here, first we need to go one folder up because currently we are in the data folder. From the data folder, we need to go to the project folder, the root folder. There we have this models folder, and in the models folder, we have movies model. Okay, so here we are trying to access the movie model. Next, let's go ahead and let's read the movies.json file. So here we want to read the movies.json file. And for that, let me go ahead and let me create a variable. I will call it movies. And to read a file, we can use this fs module. In there, we have this read file method, and here we want to read the file synchronously. So I'm going to use this read file sync method. And here we need to specify the path of the file. So here the path of the file is going to be the current directory. So basically, we are going to run this script from our command line. And when we are going to run the script from the command line, in the command line, the current directory will be the root directory, the project directory. So from the root directory, we want to go to the data folder, and in the data folder, we have movies.json file, right? So that is the path we need to specify here. And we also need to specify the encoding. Okay. Now, some of you might think that both movies.json file and this script file which we are creating, they are in the same folder. Then why do we need to specify a path like this? Why do we need to go to the data folder and from there we need to access the movies.json file? Because again, here this script will run from the command line, and for the command line, the current directory will be the root directory. So here we need to specify the path of this movies.json file relative to the root directory and not relative to this import devdata.js file. Okay, all right. So this line here, it is going to return us a JSON data in the form of a string. Now we want to convert that string data, that string JSON data into a JavaScript object. For that, we can use a method called json.pass. We have already used this json.pass method earlier in this course. So basically this json.pass method creates an object from string JSON data. So here this line is going to return a JavaScript array, because if you see in the movies.json file, we have an array, and in that array we have a bunch of movie objects. So this line here, it is going to return an array, and that array will be assigned to this movies variable. And now we can go ahead and write the actual function that is going to import the data in the database. So what we want is, currently whatever data we have in the MongoDB database collection, whatever movie documents we have in the MongoDB collection, first we want to delete it, and then we want to import the movie data from this movies.json file. So currently if I go to Compass, here we have this movies collection, and currently in this movies collection we have only one movie document. So what we want is, when we run this import devdata.js script, first we want to delete all the movie documents which we have inside this movies collection, and then we want to import the movie data from this movies.json file. I hope it is clear. So here we are going to write two functions. The first function will be basically responsible for deleting the existing documents which we have in the movies collection, and the second function will be responsible for importing the movies object from this movies.json file into the movies collection. So let's go ahead and let's write those functions. So here we want to delete existing movie documents from the collection. Let's go ahead and let's create a function. Let's call it maybe delete movies. It is going to be an async function, because inside this function we are going to use an await keyword. Okay, and inside this function let's specify try and catch block, and this catch block is also going to receive an error object. Now how are we going to delete all the existing documents from the movies collection? For that, here we have imported this movie model, so we are going to use this movie model inside this try block. And in order to delete all the documents from a collection, in the introduction to MongoDB lecture we have learned that we have a function called delete many, and if we don't pass any filter to this delete many, in that case it will delete all the documents from a given collection. In this case, it will delete all the documents from the movies collection, because here we are calling this delete many on this movie model. Okay, and once all the movie documents from the movies collection is deleted, we also want to log a message in the console saying that data successfully deleted. Okay, but if some error occurs, in that case this catch block will be called, and in this catch block we are not going to do anything. We are simply going to log the error message. So this error object which we are receiving, this is going to have a message property, and this message property is going to store the actual error message. And that's it. Now, the one thing which we are forgetting here is, here we also need to use the await keyword. Then let's also go ahead and create a function for importing data from the movies.json file into the MongoDB database. So let me go ahead and let me copy this function from here, and let's simply call it import movies. Okay, and here we will say data successfully imported. All right, otherwise if some error occurs, we want to log the error message. And here we need to use create method. So here we want to import data, right? We want to create documents in the collection. So for that we are going to use this create method. Now we have used this create method before in this course when we were implementing the create movies API, right? And at that time, to this create method we passed an object. So whatever object we pass to this create method, that object will be created as a document in the collection. So here we are using this create method on this movie model. So whatever object we will pass to this create method, that object will be created as a document on the movies collection. But if we want to create multiple documents at a time, in that case, instead of passing an object to this create method, we can pass an array. Okay. And if you remember, this movies variable here, it is storing an array of movie objects. So if we go ahead and if we pass this movies array to this create method, in this movies array, we have multiple movie objects. So all those movie objects will be inserted inside the movies collection as a document. And all this will happen at once. Here, we don't have to create movie documents one by one. So now we have a function for deleting the movies from the movies collection, and we have a function for importing movies data from the movies.json file into the MongoDB collection. Now all we need to do here is we need to call these two functions. So we can call delete movies, and then we can also call import movies. And this should do the work. But here, since we are learning about scripts, let's also learn a little bit about command lines and how we can interact to a script from our command line. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to call this delete movie and import movie like this. We are going to call this delete movies function and import movies function, but not like this. What we want is when we run this import devdata.js script from the command line, we want to pass some options to this script. And based on the option we are passing, we either want to delete movies or we want to import movies. For example, earlier when we installed some packages from npm, we used this command npm install, and then there we can also pass some options like -g when we want to install the packages globally. In the same way, we can also say -save -dev if we want to save a dependency as a dev dependency. So these are the options we are passing while running a script. Okay. In the same way, when we will run this import devdata.js file, to do that we will type this command node, and this import devdata.js file, it is present inside the data folder. So as I have mentioned earlier, currently from the command line we are in the current directory, in the root directory. So from the root directory we need to go to the data folder, and from the data folder we need to go to the import dev data.js file in order to run it. So when we will run this command, in order to run this import dev data.js file, from here we also want to pass some options like --delete or --import. So when we pass delete, that means we want to call the delete function. But when we pass --import, we want to call the import function. Okay, so how can we achieve this? Well, to achieve this, let me first show you one thing. So let me first go ahead and let me remove these two lines. And here, let's go ahead and let's simply log process.argv. Okay, so this argv is a property on this process object. So when I run this script now, in the console, we will see the value of this process.argv. Let's actually see that. Let's go ahead and let's run this command. And if I press enter, here we have some error. Let's scroll up, and it says .inv is not defined. So here we are using this .inv. Oh, here it should be .inv. Let's save the changes here, and let's now go ahead and let's run this command again. So here the DB connection is successful, and if I scroll up, we should see, let me move it a bit up. So here you can see when we are logging this argv, it has logged an array, and in that array we have two elements. This is the first element and this is the second element. Okay, so this first value which you see here, it is basically where the node command is located, and the second value which you see here, it is the path of the script which we are currently running. Currently we are running this import dev data.js file, so this complete value is the path of this import dev data.js file. Now let me stop this process. So this process is currently running, that's why you can see this cursor here. So let's stop this process by pressing Ctrl C, and let's try to run this process again, but this time we are going to pass an option, maybe // import. And now if I press enter, you will see that now this array has three elements. The first two elements were also present earlier, but now there is also a third element, and this third element is basically the option which we specified while running this script. Okay, so from this process.argv, we can extract the options which we have passed while running the script. So here, the option which we are going to pass, that is going to be the third element of this array. So it will be at index 2. So let me remove this console.log statement from here. And here we are going to write some if statement. So here let's say if process.argv, and here we are going to use the indexing. So here the option is present at index 2. So we are going to pass the index as 2. So this expression here is going to return us the third element from this array. Okay, so if it is equal to hyphen import, in that case what do we want to do is we want to call this import movies function. Okay, but if process argv of 2, if it is equal to hyphen delete, in that case we want to call delete movies function. All right, and this should be it. So let me stop the process here by pressing Ctrl C. Let's also save these changes. Okay, let's also save the changes in movies.json file. And now let's try to run this script. Before that, let me clear the terminal here. So here, let's first go ahead and let's run this script. So to run this import dev data.js file, we need to type this command, node space the path of the file, the relative path, and then we need to specify an option. So first I'm going to specify the delete option, because here first we want to delete all the existing movies document from the movies collection. So currently if I go to Compass, we only have one movie document here. So we want to delete this document from this movies collection. So when we run this script here with this delete option, and when I press enter, it should delete the existing documents from the movies collection. So DB connection successful, and you can see data successfully deleted. If we go to this Compass and if we refresh this collection, now we should not have any documents in this collection, in this movies collection. Let's go back and let me stop the process again by pressing Ctrl C. So currently what is happening is when we run this script import dev data.js, after deleting or importing, the process will not close automatically. It will keep on running. So what we also want is once the delete operation or the import operation is successful, we want to make this process exit. And the simplest way of doing that is to use process.exit function. Okay, now I'm using this outside of the try catch block because let's say all the movies are imported. So after that we want to exit the process. But while importing the movies, let's say some error has occurred, in that case it will go to the catch block. So after that also we want to exit the process. So that's why I'm keeping it outside the try catch block. We are going to do the same thing for the delete movies. Okay, so once the movies are deleted, we also want to exit the process. Let's save these changes again. And now let's go ahead and let's try to import the movies data from this movies.json file into the MongoDB collection. So here for the option, instead of delete, we will pass import. Let's press enter. So DB connection successful. And here you can see some error has occurred. Basically, some validation error has occurred. And it says release year is a required field. So I think in one of the movie objects, we have not specified the release year. So here let's see which movie object does not have this release year property. So the first movie has this. I think if I scroll down to the end, so here instead of release year, we have this year property, and that's why we have this validation error. So let me copy this release year name from here and let's use it here. So as you can see, if we have some validation error during import also, those validations are checked, and if there is validation error, it will stop importing, it will stop creating the documents in the MongoDB collection, and it will throw that validation error, as you can see here. So this validation error has occurred on this last movie object. That means before this last movie object, we have total 7 or 8 objects here. So these movie objects are inserted in the MongoDB database. And to prove that, let me go to Compass again. And here, let's refresh this collection. So you can see other movie objects has been inserted here. They have been created as the documents. Only the last movie object here in this movies.json file, only the last movie object has failed the validation. So this movie object has not been inserted. So now we have fixed that schema, that validation error. So instead of year, we have named it as release year. So now again, let's go ahead and let's first delete all the documents from the movies collection. For that, let's run this command. Or let me first go ahead and let me clear the console so that it will be visible for you as well. Now let's go ahead and let's run this command. So instead of import, we want to delete all the existing documents from the MongoDB collection. As you can see here, we have this message, delete data deleted successfully. Let's clear the console again. Let me save this movies.json file before that. And now let's go ahead and let's run the script. And this time we are going to run this script with the import option. Let's press enter. So DB connection successful and data successfully imported. So now all the data, all the movies object from this movies.json file has been imported in the MongoDB collection. So now if we go to the MongoDB collection and if we refresh, we should have all the movie objects here. Okay. So this is all from this lecture. Here we have created a simple script to import some dev data from a JSON file into the MongoDB collection. And remember that this script file has nothing to do with the Express app which we are currently creating. Here I simply wanted to show you how we can create a simple script in Express.js and using Mongoose to import data from a JSON file into the MongoDB database. This is all from this lecture. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.